Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's talk about how to spot a real wine pro. This video was inspired by an interesting situation I encountered a while ago. I was helping out at a service at a fine dining restaurant, and on a busy evening we had two distinct guests. Both tables ordered very expensive Burgundy white wines. The guest at the first table constantly requested to pour only a small amount in their glass and quickly submerge the wine bottle back into the ice. The second guest asked to put the wine in the ice bucket for 10 or 15 minutes and afterwards to leave the bottle on the table. The first guest kept explaining the wine to me and noted that maybe someday, if I'm lucky, I will be able to afford it and try it. In contrast, the second guest asked me if I have tasted this wine, and when I said that I hadn't, they invited me to pour myself to taste. Despite the first guest talking way more about the wine, I simply knew that the real wine pro was sitting at the second table. It is not my goal to throw shade at anyone, but sometimes people simply want to show off their wine knowledge. A few sentences in and you realize it's just a facade with no real substance. And then come the real pros. They often don't need to talk much, but through the simple ways they act, you just know they truly know and love wine. So today, let's talk about those wine pros and how to spot them. This is so funny, me saying this, because when I started studying wine, I was taught that it is always better to serve wine too cold than too warm. And I worked many years believing that this was true, and in some ways it really is. I mean, if you pour wine into a glass, it will increase by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius almost immediately. Over time, wine served too cold will reach the perfect drinking temperature without any intervention from the server or the client. That is not the case if you pour the wine too warm. If it is too warm, it will only get worse from there. You can ask for another glass hoping it will be cooler, or you can ask for. But let's go back to wine being served too cold. In fact, wine critic Eric Asimov once wrote in the New York Times that the habit of chilling white wine way too long and drinking it way too cold troubles him in the extreme. It is no secret that aromas and flavors open up more as the wine warms up. And what we experience on the nose is strongly connected to how we taste the wine. There are wines that can tell you stories only by nosing them, where they are coming from, their winemaking and age, all the complexity with just few sniffs. This is especially true with great wines coming from amazing terroirs. If we are paying 3-digit price for a wine, we most certainly want to enjoy it to the fullest, and not over-chilling it is one way to do that. Think of Great White Burgundy. A real wine pro might start by putting their bottle on the ice at the beginning, but will definitely ask for it to be taken out of the ice bucket once it has reached the perfect temperature, which in many cases is somewhere between 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. And the best sommeliers will ask you if you prefer your wine to be put on ice or kept somewhere near it. You know the same old story that red wines should be served at the room temperature. And indeed, this has become more of a joke, reminding us that room temperature doesn't mean today's comfort level of 21 degrees Celsius, but more like what my father prefers, 15 degrees. So this means that any red wine that has been sitting on the kitchen counter or living room shelf should be placed in a cool area or fridge before serving. Unlike white wine temperature, this is less of a problem in restaurants because most red wines are either served from the cellar or a red wine fridge where they have been stored at the proper temperatures. However, real wine pros will often ask sommeliers to place their red wine on the ice, not in it, just to keep it slightly chilled. Naturally, it is very difficult to generalize about the serving temperature of reds, but usually lighter style wines, wines with less or softer tannins and higher acidity, can be served at lower temperatures. Some wine experts even advise the lightest style red wines to be served at 10 degrees Celsius. Think of Gamay or light and easy drinking Barberas or Dolcettos. Wines with higher tannins or more oak presence will feel better at higher temperatures. This is tricky, or maybe it's not, I don't know. But by now, some of you regular viewers might already know my opinion on wine glasses. I love them, I use them, I even collect some of them, but I don't think that each grape needs its own specific glass. I have made a video on this with many reasons why. However, I absolutely do not dismiss the importance of a good quality wine glass. Some of you might have noticed that real wine experts prefer their sparkling wines, and most certainly champagnes, served in white wine glasses instead of flutes. And there's a good reason for this beyond it being just trendy. First, champagne is wine, and great wine with complex aromas and depth of flavors. By pouring it in a flute, we simply lock it in that small space and do not allow it to deliver all that potential beauty. We know that our nose is responsible for the majority of flavors we feel on the palate as well. Therefore, being able to appreciate wine's aromatics is essential to fully experience it. In fact, many consider the Riedel Riesling glass an ideal choice for serving sparkling wines. I myself have fallen in love with Riedel's sparkling wine glass, which I will link below if you want to check it out. Interestingly and differently from the Riesling glass, it has a scratched dip at the bottom to create irritation for the bubbles to form. These glasses allow you to enjoy both the flavors of your wine and the visual of the bubbles stream rising up. A real wine professional will be open to discovering new winemaking countries, regions, grape varieties, wine styles and trends, while also being respectful towards the classics. I have witnessed many extremes in this matter. Some people claim that only France, Italy, and sometimes Spain can make the real wine, while the rest is whatever, absolutely disregarding less discovered countries or grape varieties that offer not only great value, amazing quality, but simply are also exciting to discover. And then there is the other extreme, to completely dismiss and even ridicule classic wine regions or established producers, focusing only on small, less discovered regions or grape varieties and moving away from them once they become more recognized. A real wine pro will appreciate the classics for their reliability, consistency, and recognizability, while also being super thrilled to learn new ideas, practices, regions, and grape varieties, as well as meeting new winemakers and hearing their experiences and philosophies. I think exploration with an open mind and heart is very important in the wine industry. Furthermore, a real wine pro will recognize that we each have different preferences. Some people feel comfortable spending money on wines they feel safe with and may not need our advice. People love Prosecco and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and these wines can be great and exciting despite them being mainstream. And the real wine pro might want to share their unique bottle with you, but will not pressure you or make you feel uncomfortable if you do not enjoy it as much as they do. This is the reason why I chose to make this video. The wine industry has often been and still is judged for being snobbish and exclusive. However, I strongly believe that a real wine pro is humble, inclusive, and supportive instead of just showing off their knowledge or labels. I remember myself early in my wine journey. I learned that Chablis can only be made from Chardonnay, and I knew about wine way more than my peers, and I felt big. Now, after more than 18 years in the wine industry, it is so fascinating how the more I learn, the less confident I become. You learn these exceptions to rules and appellations. You meet these mavericks in viticulture or winemaking, and you hear about different practices achieving the same results and same practices achieving different results. And then there's science. What you once learned is disproven and vice versa. I have made several errors here on the No Sediment channel as well. So after a handful of cold showers, you just understand how much there is yet to learn and how little your knowledge is. You also realize that no one can know everything. We each have our strengths, and with wine world being so vast, you learn to never go to extremes. Therefore, I have observed that people whose knowledge is enormous, backed by huge experience, never show off or make others feel uncomfortable or shame them. They are open to new members and want to help others to improve their wine journey, no matter if the person is just starting to learn or already has some experience. Now, many claim loudly that they are humble, but in reality they are full of judgment and elitism. Stay away from them. Your wine journey will be so much better if you surround yourself with the real wine pros. Let me know in the comments what in your opinion are the characteristics of a real wine pro. And I'm quite sure you should watch next video right here.